Who are these people?
Are you
This
ready?
is for Colin's still here.
Colin
I
is
think Colin's still
definitely here. Colin's
So-
here.
You know, it's not like I didn't have thoughts about the Vanguard, but it just wasn't it didn't seem worth it. And there were bigger fish to fry, as it were. And then I saw them say something to Colin, like, "You're a disgrace, you're not a real leftist," some blah, 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 blah. The kind of shit people say to people all the time. But I was like, that's different. That's our Colin, you know? That's a personal attack. So I started thinking about, you know, if I were to write a piece about the Vanguard, what would it be? And the thought I had the whole time was like, I know they're a bigger production, but it felt like punching down. It just felt like attacking something that was defenseless. And then I realized maybe the best way to do this is let's have the whole piece kind of take place in my head to some extent of me weighing the options of whether it's worth it or not. And then by the time we get to the end and I kind of decide that it's not, the damage has already been done. And I may or may not have cackled out loud when I had that eureka moment. So yeah.
I would lean towards the May, but just because I listened to you sing and you cackle in the middle of a song.
So yeah, this this was another very productive day at work where I wrote this one. So this is for the kids at the Vanguard. This is what serves as Vanguard. No intro, folks. I'm ripping in, opening my notes app like a vat of acid. Let's begin. Point me to the journalists I'm dipping in. Wait a minute. Holy shit. Something must be wrong. It's just a couple kids. Not a single wrinkle on their privileged skin. Couple of whiskers you can just make out through all the clout that's dribbling off their little chins. The Vanguard charge of a red rose strike force, mouths wide open as they charge into the hype wars. Now usually I'd be obliged to take my time and savor every moment of the movie of me stretching out this two-piece till I eat it like a 5-course. Usually I'd lift them up and drop them 25 floors. Strip their image back, expose the eyesore. But it's sad to see the DSAI make cattle of the prepubescent. It's sad to witness Jimmy Dore derangement syndrome-addled brains of adolescents. So maybe I should cut some slack and throw them back. Like once they're done maturing, they might guess the message. Maybe once they're all growed up, they'll learn their lesson. Maybe they'll look back a couple years from now and cringe just like I did the day I found those old Obama pins behind my dresser. Your Vanguard's just a couple drips, no ripples to be made. I guess if you carry water, you're an honorary blue wave. Defending our democracy like anything survived for you to save. So arbiters of good intention, tell us who is truly leftist. Let them wield identity like such a holy weapon and let no one through the gate who's unordained. While you're both streaming live with boot receptacles agape, a couple overzealous paladins decrying bad faith, here to show Kalinsky you can fit your whole fist so his size 8 shoes ain't shit. Man, if that's what serves as Vanguard, then your army's got a lot to lose. Except for the respect of those who jump at Shining Schumer's shoes. Those who treat the issues like a pleasant conversation that they're having on a dinner cruise. But never once in my whole life has punching up felt so much like it's child abuse. Like maybe I should save my scorn for those whose lobes are fully formed, who aren't just human moths that swarm the brightest clout to keep them warm. Maybe it's not worth the mess of mopping guppies off the floor, strike a nerve, then CPS comes knocking at my chamber door. So cut them loose. Wait it out an album cycle, maybe 4. If they didn't learn by then, I'll proceed with no remorse. Once they're just your average centrist, drumming up support for wars, ask you for receipts as they both cite a State Department source. See, the pipeline's pretty short from clueless faux progressive larva to the fragile centrist chrysalis where criticism's trauma, to spreading wide your liberal wings to shit on all the fauna as you host your weekly brunch and sit down chit-chat with Rokana. You'd both do well to heed my words and look me in the eyes. My words will spare you only once, I don't show mercy twice, and my lyrics aren't the kind of place where people leave alive, but I don't eat low-hanging fruit, leave it for the flies.
And I'd say mic drop
we
on
have fun
that
here.
I'd say that's a little bit of a mic drop.
these people?
This is Union Drip.
All right. I came to be a prophet, but I'll settle for pariah. We filled the air with DDT and called the wind Mariah. We cheer on every victory in the war against Goliath. Watch them model Christian Smalls and pose him with Zendaya. They're gonna milk that Union Drip till the very last simp takes the very last sip. And when it's all wrung dry and it's not worth shit, then they'll leave it laying right where it is. You can watch them let it all drip into the ditch. Here's the sitch. Biden will invoke the witch of January 6 as a quick fix. Tell you that she's here to fill your bellies with some twigs and sticks, roxberries and a capital brick. Concurrently, he's finger-wagging all of the Republicans while sucking their proverbial dicks. Fluff them up a couple of concessions in the flick of a bic. Just need lights and a camera and prompter and someone to monitor the prompter who knows his shit. Joe's gonna open the show with a few short words to be chanted by old white folks wearing old white cloaks who will march in a circle around a progressive political star who is purely a place to spit. But it's all good fun, and there's no harm done when the banks yell cut and they're calling it quits. It's all Flint water gone under the bridge, out of sight, out of mind, and dissolved in the mist. Joe'll only need a flick of the wrist, and the throat of the movement is slit. It'll sputter and gurgle and choke for a bit, bleed out in a viral clip. And as the last of its life force flows to the floor, he'll say, "That's my idea of a Union Drip." See, the eyes are a glimpse of the soul. So it says a whole lot if they aren't exposed, and your message is branding you stamped on your clothes, and the media storm is wherever you go. Then you go meet Joe, and you laugh at his quips, and you shake his hand with a nice firm grip, and you cry good trouble through the loafers on your lips. Too true, that's a Union Drip. Who knew that the victory gift for your unionization's a DNC script, and it's nice and precise like a sniper who's trying to cripple you right where you live? The target they lead is your wallet. They seek to dismember your hands so you can't feed your family or pick up your kids. While they flatter themselves into orgasm, feigning respect for our unions, who wired our grids, who welded our ships, who died for our rights to not witness our children conscripted to 12-hour shifts in the mines from the time that they're 5, when they know damn well that the union had thrived till they shattered its hip. Showed up and handed out Pinkerton slips. Now it's as simple as status and symbol, and making the star of the movement so bright that the movement itself is eclipsed. Now our mouths grow dusty and dry on the promise of Union Drips that trickle down out of a wealthy fist that is squeezing the heart of the working class hard as it can till it finally ruptures and splits, punctures a valve, and it laughs at the sound of the squish. The way that they laugh at the sight of us making a wage slave's wish to a man on the cover of Vanity Fair saying, "Eat the rich." So this is for those who rely on commissions or toil for tips, watching their bosses drink bottles of profits while all you get offered are jugs of their piss. If you seek out the soul of the movement or proof that the movement exists, try looking in the eyes of Chris. And when you find that you can't, then the answer is as simple as this. The movement is never one single face, and a drip is a leak to repair or replace. We won't eat the rich to suit expensive tastes. We'll consume because survival's at stake.
Yeah.
That's Union Drip.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, hell yeah. Okay. Yeah. I like that. There's some really, yeah, I've never seen or heard that one. That was brand new to me. And
yeah, I just finished that this afternoon.
Wow.
I saw Nina Turner with a roller dipped in ocean blue, spreading life like water in a painted pool. She smoothed the surface out and made a little wave or two, a few convincing ripples and reflections ripe for hazing you and every other vacant fool who saw her build a cage for you, who still returned to ah and ooh and walked right past the toxic plume to witness Nina's masterpiece, her grand charade, her painted pool. The hints of light that trick your eyes, the trap inside the lapis jewel, the half-imagined voice that tries to lavish you with platitudes and lure you in the baited waters, hook and sinker, absolute. I know you've thought about just diving in it, haven't you? Because Nina got you feeling like you're splatterproof. Progressivism ain't a pipeline to the blue side, baby. It's a waiting room, and it leads you to a pool with zero waiting room. And every lemming diving in that painted pool today will not be swayed and can't be saved. I know, I tried to save a few, but I ultimately watched them eat the pavement. Those who get less leisure time than peasants in the Middle Ages. Those for whom a dozen fucking eggs are worth an hour of their wages. Heaven's not a place on earth, and hell is what you make it. And look at us, we made it. America, degraded, diving in a painted fake oasis on the basis of a break in their enslavement, lined up at the diving board, excited and impatient, pointing fingers halfway round the world to cry invasion, turning backs on human rights at home because the location doesn't fit with our narration. You'll never spot the sanctions if you still deny the occupations. The end came and went. I guess you missed the high note. Like we're gonna miss the last white rhino. The harbinger of end times was floating in the sky, but nobody saw the message past the clouds above Ohio, where BlackRock is demonstrating sell high, buy low. A toxic mass eviction in the heartland. Suddenly your city spans a 15-minute biodome. And cops on every corner, every blink of yours reported, every word that's out of order is summarily recorded. When information's valuable, your privacy's as malleable as safety in a school or your right to an abortion. But we know the face of every thief who came to take our portions, auctioned off our pensions, built 100 bloody warships. And I bet you didn't know you were a donor for it. Bet you didn't know we still do no-knock warrants. Who could have guessed that if unnecessary force is left to officer discretion, the result is something morbid and inhuman and abhorrent? All of which is in your feed and whirling in the torrent, all of which is coursing through the current. And all our fate, like Julian's, is hinging on American assurance, which history has proved to be as honest as me telling you it's raining while I'm drenching you with urine. And then telling you the urine's really liquid fucking mustard gas, then ditch it in the pasture land like best of luck and light the match, then telling you to disregard that pestilence that billows past. And all from in the comforts of my safety hatch. Down in the bunker, there's a massive empty pool that Nina Turner patiently is painting ocean blue. Its depth is deathly shallow, but deception swears it true, and she draws the drooling willing 2 by 2.
Who are these people?
Let's go.
This, my only RFK piece was through the eyes of the most sycophantic fan I could find. And it's safe to say that she is 6 of my 10 least favorite people on Twitter.
Yeah, dude, Lori.
I can't even.
Her on Pasta today, and she literally said on Pasta. So RFK is right about so many things. What if he could be possibly right about Israel, which is such the all many shit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all I'm gonna say is she's definitely had direct contact with him. Just connect the dots. You can figure it out. It's
when you think of like, there's just saying, hey, this is my candidate, this is my guy, But if you have to try to convince people that the genocide going on isn't that big of an issue in order to get people to sign off on your candidate's fucked. And you are morally fucked on like a core level. And to see someone really trying their best to excuse and justify what's going on, or make the case that they got it coming, or they deserve it, or there's a reason for this to happen, other than ethnic cleansing and a land grab, is absurd. And I would argue that if you're really trying to push that idea on people, it's safe to say that you want a larger body count. You don't want this to stop. So if you are actively encouraging and endorsing this, then you want more people dead. Then you're my fucking enemy. I hate to sound like the Dilbert guy, but like, how are you not the enemy of anyone with a conscience? Like, it's disgusting. It's there really aren't words. It's morally reprehensible. And the worst part is, and this is the last I'll say before I read the piece, because I didn't want to go all in. She's learned well from all the Israeli representatives that she's watched how to play victim after saying shit like that, to after all this hateful, ignorant shit that comes out of her mouth, to say, thank you for being nice to me. Thank you for playing fair. You know, people are just so mean, you know, politics just makes for strange bedfellows, doesn't it? You know, and for the record, I would rather eat a fucking ground glass burger, have a baby through my dick, and eat a gun before I shared a bed with someone with that kind of fucking barrel of the fucking just bottom of the barrel morals. It's absolute garbage. I can't.
That is
I can't even.
Your vocabulary, man.
I ran out of words. It is possible for me to hit a wall, and I hit a wall. You all have seen it.
I like it's like the angry video game nerd.
Seriously, I'm just gonna start swearing at this. It's bleeding. I'm just like,
I'd rather have a buffalo take a dump on my face.
I'd rather drink beer out of the skunk's asshole.
You know, when I don't know if anyone watches Arrested Development, but there's the episode when Job keeps talking about his suit, and finally he goes, should and I felt like I was about to just do that, like I was about to blue screen and need a reboot. It's just my blood pressure. It's okay. So anyways,
all right, let's roll.
When I wanted to do an RFK piece, it felt the best to focus through this. Not just how bad is this candidate, but how bad is someone that can defend him wholeheartedly. And that's how this came to be. This is pull string. Her hands are bound behind her candidate, who found the perfect hill on which to lay it down for good. Who she might not agree with on apartheid or celebrating war crimes, but talks just like she could. He's got the IDF's back and the CIA's back like a Democrat should. Mr. Anti-Establishment didn't start the fire, but he's slipping on his hood. Her voice is grafted to a candidate who might not always speak for her, but what is she to say? Why bother harping on an issue that Americans won't listen to? It seems like such a waste. But what activism is saying they don't give a shit, but if I don't, why would they? So way to rob yourself of agency, then chain yourself to genocide and look the other way. I love to see a fellow running as a Democrat, taking stacks of money from a GOP super PAC, calling out corruption in the giant fucking country club he's clearly been accepted at, but wants to be the leader of. He knows which way the money runs, knows it paves a leader's path, and human rights for Palestine historically don't lead to that, so he will not address it, as he doesn't see a need for that. And welcome to the attitude our country's politicians have displayed toward Palestinians since back before they cracked the will of Arafat. And so the story goes forever after. We do not speak the P word here or recognize the Nakba. All you'll find are sea lions who volunteered as actors, barking like a manuscript from NAFTA. All you'll find are insulated sycophants intent on justifying why the slaughter done in Palestine is not a voting matter. Tell that to Shireen Abu Akleh. Tell that to the children growing up inside a city where the walls are made of shackles. Tell that to a mother who is burying her baby, how her son is not our problem because we'll never see his grave. He's just a topic we can mute, or we can scroll right past his face and all those videos of mourners being beaten at his wake. So stuff your poll on what the average voter deems as urgent. They don't get to know the half of what we use as our detergent when we launder all our ISIS cells, our cartels and insurgents. We do not elect the man behind the curtain. We elect the pull string diversion. We elect the lesser evil donors pre-selected, best to do unto the Arabs as we did unto the Persians, and do unto the Muslims as instructed by the merchant who provided you with HIMARS that can vaporize a person. Back into the dust in which we all will find immersion. One arms dealer's Jenin is another dealer's curse on. Both are just a mark that Lockheed Martin smells a purse on, and voters the hollow thralls that Congress put a curse on, to vote against their interests every 4 years till they die. And if you show them Palestine, cry better them than I. Though the curse of occupation's taken place within their mind, they will always love their prison long as they are shown the sky. They will sing about their freedoms under Apple's watchful eye, as puppets sing and dance should you so pull their strings and wires. And they will rally round the man who bears a torch and bears it high, and believe him when he tells them that he's here to stop the fire. We are cursed to love our prison and keep lifting up our liars. We are not behind the wheel. We're being crushed beneath the tires. And our blood is in the oil and the plastic on the wipers. And our blood is on the hands of those who cranked inflation higher. And blood is on a vest where press can barely be deciphered, put there by a few Israeli snipers who were aiming at the center mass of truth about American desires. You can sell us any story. We're a nation built of buyers. And we love a good parade. It always makes us feel inspired. Like, who cares that those were Nazis? Gosh, they had the widest smiles. So I wouldn't bank on sequels to the Nuremberg trials. If they happened now, they would be confidential, Pfizer style. Redacted paragraphs and empty vials. Close to 80 years before they have to share their files. Well, luckily, your lesser evil logic lets you justify the nations we've defiled. Lesser evil logic lets you cast a vote for someone that you know is truly vile. Lesser evil logic sees another million bodies thrown upon its hoarder's pile, extending out for miles. So every line I've had to scrap, I've turned back into bile. So don't you touch that dial, lest the feds come swarm your door. I guess it isn't safe to say things like, I don't support the war, or may Palestine know freedom from the Jordan to its shores, or I'd love to see our senators get trampled by the poor. Any pull string down will tell what they're allowed to stand up for, and how little things like Palestine are better off ignored. Call it voter outreach for desperate remoras when the shark from which they get their scraps starts pulling on the floor. And the shark says those who live beneath a brutal occupation should be thankful for their freedoms and their rubble and their gore. And I swear it only makes those bottom feeders love him more. One in particular is beaming for her candidate who found the perfect hill on which to make his final stand. She will not be deterred by all those pesky little war crimes, will not be deterred by his support for stolen land. He helps her come to terms with how to spin an occupation, and forgiving the oppressor is the democratic way. She says her voice is grafted to the candidate who speaks for her. And every time you pull her string, she's nothing new to say. And that's pull string.
Who are these people?
Here we go. The first line of this piece is always so fun to start with. Blue check, better hold your breath. I'll slap you at your Ray-Bans. Toe to toe, we'll do-si-do and dip until you face plant. If you want statistics, I can spit them up like Rain Man. Now your argument has 0 arms and legs like Rayman. Now we're touring 2019 like it was Graceland. I dropped 50 pounds and started dressing like a stagehand. Quarantine was born and I restored my former waistband. Now I make the trailers for our future in the wasteland. Back on my bullshit, back at my heaviest, here to grab the artifact and jam it in the edifice, force it in the orifice, absorb the sordid medicine. All the good cops are either dead or quickly jettisoned. No, I'm not a nihilist, and no, I'm not a pessimist. I'm just your average realist with a fetish for the precipice. Bend you over this abyss. I want to watch you sweat a bit. I'll drop you once it registers and know that you'll remember it. Daughters of the Revolution soon may lose their membership, maybe through a dissolution, maybe through dismemberment. I won't be the one to choose or execute the severance, but stand in solidarity with every tool that severs it. Every crimson pool we made of every fascist fool who watched us sacrifice our schools to fund the final crowning jewel affixed in Lockheed Martin's diadem. What's another 20 dead? Our leaders never cried for them. They're laughing in the garden, drunk and pissing on the hyacinths. The royal jubilee to praise this fascist Biden monarchy is imminent, and it would not be possible without the constant slaughtering of innocents overseas and here at home and anywhere we find a shred of innocence. We won't stand for peace, not in the global or the inner sense. We won't let a single nation live outside our prison fence. We'll provide the bullets that defaced an honest journalist and turn around to praise ourselves for fearlessly upholding the free press and their important service. But I'll make a bet that Anthony starts blinking awfully nervous when you ask him why Assange is being jailed without a purpose for what may be the greatest, most courageous act of journalism carried out in earnest, all to be rewarded with a slow-mo execution stretching out across a decade until they commute his sentence half an hour after he goes in the furnace. Sometimes I think the world is only turning out of spite. It's like we died a long time ago, and we're so used to being burned that when we saw the light, we all assumed that it was here to burn us. And so we fled into the shelter of a flooded circus, led to higher ground by all the clowns who own the only raft that floats above the sewage. And yes, there's plenty room, but they insist we don't deserve it. They insist the system works. They know it isn't perfect, but say we can't let great become the enemy of good, or all these rolling waves of shit we call democracy and bled out every dime for won't be worth it. But I submit this joke of an American experiment has not been worth a fraction of a damn since we birthed it. I submit that all our contributions to the planet, when subtracting our destruction and the millions we left dead and labeled damages, would leave us with a failing grade of worthless. My apologies to any blue check who might be listening. I'm sure that made you clutch your pearls and $1,000 purses. Did I interrupt your fantasy of healthcare exclusivity, replete with fleets of Tesla hearses? Or your daily round of golf claps to pacify our broken nurses? I know my spoken word is like the scalpel of a surgeon who is working on behalf of the insurgents. But I'm just here to open up your eyes so you can see the true reality and not your censored, tailored version. You can get your copy of my brand new manifesto. I took all my calls for violence, made it danceable, and presto, called it Communism, Taylor's version. I called it Tales of the Great American High-Speed Rail Aversion. Called it How to Put a Bigot into Power, then collectively and feebly coerce him into acting like a decent person. This will be the most important vote you'll ever cast, because we have to wrestle power from the current ruling class and hand it over to the other team of smiling suited serpents. This will be the most important vote you'll ever cast. Now watch them toss it in the vat and see it melt into the surface. That's Communism, Taylor's version.
Who are these people?
This is Tyrant Tartare. A symphony of occupying sirens. Strike before you fired up your irons. Drop you to the dog pack, slice you up, divide you up amongst the lions. Everybody chasing for a tiny taste of the lifestyle of a tyrant. Me, I only want a taste of tyrant. I like my meat rare with a red still vibrant. No one wants to work, so we're now hiring any hungry product of impoverished environs who's desperate enough to eat to work a 40-hour week and still not make a single end that meets another end beside it. Before you even knew to speak, your poverty was long decided. Your future preordained into a potter's field the state provided. Heaven sent and laser guided. Straight into the mouths of those who saw the truth and kept it quiet. Right into the parasite that works the nerve that bought their silence. Somewhere undisclosed within the Virgin Islands, where stomach-turning irony is the likeliest of private pilots. Drop a little weight off over open ocean's rolling mileage. Never ask a sleeping agent what's behind those rolling eyelids. Never ask a decent act of Joseph Biden. Never ask a voting blue, no matter who Democrat, about their favorite politician's finance. Or just how many licks until they're crashing off their Vyvanse. And come down to the brutal truth of shackled feet and tied hands. Rolling amber waves of piss that soak your broken promised land. For worse or better, I will live and die an honest man who crawled and clawed and fought to stand where truer words were contraband, where human birth was in demand, regardless of your circumstance, so you were forced to term by laws that never saw a doctor's hands. So a plague on both the houses of the ruling class. May all their shifting sands be burned to pools of cooling glass, so everywhere they look, their own reflections drooling back with hungry eyes, unrecognized, unverified, and Bible black.
Who are these people?
This is called La Mort Boheme. Walter Cronkite, George Bush, and Clint Eastwood walk into a ritual. A tinted caravan is coiled under onyx skies. It weaves the wilds, winding deep within the forest's bowels, where famous faces, every one of which you recognize, are all encircled, every one adorned in scarlet cowl. And in the center of the circle sits a sacrifice with 30 robed and hooded figures stood before a massive owl. Its face is caked in moss, the torch's light, the flush of life is rushed into its carven eyes as horns exude a wounded howl. And soon there grows among the wealthy crowd a thunderous swell. The feral mouths of power, blackened words on blighted dirt. They heave communal dirge, unbodied more than tongue could tell. A kiss of Saturn's gas, in satyr flames the grotto bursts. And soon the CEOs will swirl immoral sarabands. And soon the oldest guard will bloom a grove of bacchanal. And soon the truth of power stares up from the bearer's hands, and I would see too much to ever feel like I came back at all. I'd see too much to not return there in my every dream. I'd see too much to not see cultists on the silver screen, to feel like I'd returned the same man I'd departed as, who didn't see the words of binding spelled out in the autographs. I can't explain to those that couldn't grasp the half of it, that didn't smell that sacrifice, that didn't hear the Baphomet. You'll never speak the words if you can't comprehend their alphabet, to hear the ataraxia that calls to all the rhapsodists. You don't know the exodus of all the earthly morals the triumvirate Trismegistus would purge before the start. The invocation always was intended as a choral, and they carve you all but hollow so its words might fill your heart. What rights they have to immolate and purge their worldly cares so they are never bound by sympathy to see or hear our pain. They can edit out the screams of children piercing through the air. They can bound it black in muslin wrap and wash it all in flame. So Cronkite, Bush, and Eastwood walk into a ring of runes, while Longfellow and Holmes are lying buried in Mount Auburn. They cry aloud cremation neath a silver sylvan moon and set their effigy ablaze that it may satisfy their sovereign. An offering to Providence, presented in a coffin by those who rose to prominence through war and entertainment. The gala glow of pageantry that hides a private auction that we don't need attend because we're there in form of payment. Maybe that's their whole arrangement made to keep the dream alive, perpetuate enslavement, and still find a way to sleep at night. Now we know the measures that they'll take and what they deify. Never break the chain and don't let Cheney near the hematite. Somewhere beneath the gaping onyx sky, where a beast was brought to raucous life that never truly dies, an owl is standing vigil at an altar in a grove, and the hoods all cover faces that you know. So for those that don't know, hematite will fuck up your pacemaker.
Oh. Well, yeah, then definitely don't let. Well, they wouldn't.
I mean, we would. I'd throw it at them.
They wouldn't want to let Cheney do it. Exactly. We, on the other hand, throwing him at that motherfucker real fast. Yes. 100%. Oh my God, that's great.
Who are these people?
You're gonna need it. So yeah, this is the co-opt. If they can put a face to the movement, they can blacken both its eyes. If they can hold its hand when the photo's planned, they can frame it how they like. If they fashion us an idol, then the limelight floods our sight, and they can pose beside the movement with a cardboard picket line. In a crowd of paper labor dolls with copy-pasted signs, on a safely guarded soundstage of Bezos's design, Where the fortunes of 500 CEOs have been divined, there now rise words that curse the movement's limbs for all of time. That for all its strength of labor, it will walk with withered step, and will wave a rusting saber as it heaves a labored breath, as it coughs through all the cancers born of Bezos's request, who'd prefer your starving neighbors locked in civil war for crumbs he left. But soon your little cache of crumbs will mark your slums for violent theft, from those who act directly on behalf of those with insufficient limb to lift their hoarder's heft. See landlords order mortars sworn to render borders torsos cleft. Now tune that down a quarter step. Ego, soul, and organ death. Any month that ends in embers, rot through every crop has crept. Nothing fit to eat, at least there's lots of JP Morgan reps. I remember when we lived on empty promises through every winter. Now the grapes of wrath are plump, and they are harvested directly out of Martha's vineyard, where the soil's awfully rich, and all the fertilizer's even richer. My palete's not chromatically balanced. It's a cavalcade of crimson, and it paints a pulsing picture. It is gritty, and it's ugly. It is viscerally stunning, and it ain't fit for consumption like the water in your cistern. Go and ring your congressman, and tell that pig it's his turn. Poverty awaits, and there's a $7 wage for him to sit and watch his mansion full of shit burn. Although he won't be paid directly, he will soon receive an email that's supposed to have a link, but when it finally shows, it's empty. So he'll have to call support for confirmation that it's sent right, and then he'll get a shortcut to a poorly managed website, or he'll submit a claim that must be notarized in person, all to finally be denied because he made too much the prior year to qualify for reimbursement. And now he knows the bitter taste of just a single day that all our retail workers face. He knows the kind of day our teachers have. The kind of day the janitors and lab technicians share with all the nursing staff. The kind of daily struggle that's a constant state of fear for all the working class, the white noise in their heads that's born of stress and turned to bursting glass. The constant thought the other shoe's about to drop the size of half a city block that wouldn't stop for you. You're just a worm to smash. You're just another massacre they'll call a clash. You're just a frozen passenger before the crash. You're just another Afghan holding frozen cash. Assets all immobilized by Joseph Biden, king of ice, the self-professed iconoclast. Hosting dinner parties for his parasitic donors with some Donner Party snacks. Nothing short of hearty if you've hard enough, or lack thereof, to call it that. But who'd have thought the meaning of the average person's life was to work and sweat and die to keep the Blackstone Holdings wallet fat? Or even worse, that some are turned to chum to serve as power bars for bureaucrats. Psychopomp and circumstance. Every time you sign your rights away, you'll earn rewards, and at 100,000 points, you can redeem them for your purpose back. And it's none the worse for wear except a heavy coat of surface cracks, courtesy of those who chose the path that dips its toes into the Jeffrey Epstein virgin bath. Courtesy of Congress and the Persian Gulf expansion pack. All our rations held for ransom, kept alive on honeyed words that slowed down all our actions till we're helpless when the ants attack. Stripped to little ribbons and then scattered to the winds like the million little secrets the oppressor's shadow hand redacts. The million lives it stamped out in Iraq until its hands were black. Machinations sacrosanct and cancerous and flavor-packed. We've got just the black site for your whistleblower's Baker Act. Somewhere in the weeds beyond the pines, somewhere oddly Google somehow knows just how to find. It's right there in the file they've compiled all this time with the 7 trillion thoughts that ever came across your mind. And everything that ever turned you on or made you cry, your truest, deepest fear and all the shame you sought to hide, the thoughts you dare not speak aloud lest they be weaponized, have been loaded in the chamber and they're aimed between your eyes. Meanwhile, in your cell at home, they'll confiscate your blinds. They'll say you've waived your privacy. They'll show you where you signed. Now you don't control your thermostat. It's locked at 85, and you can't refuse the dermal graft that logs you into prime. You're just another wretch they'll come and fetch from out the vermin camp to mop some bloody floors and give a couple boots an oral shine. Oiled roots that move and writhe beneath a red-lined human tide, whose viscous sheen and toxic slime exists somewhere between a kind of Diet Coke and turpentine. The last of us are first in line. The curtain's up. We're streaming live with censored scripts and sponsored rights, subject to changing overnight on Pepsi's whim or Pfizer's spite or Lockheed Martin's bomb supply or any time we need to breed some fear to get the stocks to rise. For those who need some distance wedged between their public image and the list of those who have visited the global child concubine. A client list that shall remain nameless. A client list at least a dozen pages of honey-potted politicians ripened for the knife twist. Once you're dead, it's safe to say you don't present a flight risk. Once your lips are sealed for good, there's zero chance you might slip and spill the beans about your recent string of overnight trips, dropped from heights you can't achieve without a little nitrous, dropped beneath the roots of truth, tenuous and fibrous. The currency of youth would seem a tier above the Midas. Christ, I gagged a little as I wrote The Currency of Youth. I've yet to find the music that hath charm enough to soothe. My eyes are open wide, and I'm at terms with what I view until I shut my eyes at night and see it too. Phantom limbs of reminiscence, twinging like a sickened witness, twisted in the spinal cringe, the traumatized revisit every minute, every statement picked to shreds before it's finished, all their dignity diminished, all their liberties relinquished, all your furnaces extinguished. All your means of warmth are flickering off into the distance. All the ways you know to make a living growing listless. All your savings spilled to fill a chalice meant for Pfizer, and they'll drink its vibrant ichor like they'll down a round of blood from out the last Sumatran tiger. Light a nice cigar for every man they left to die awaiting trial up in Rikers. Do a line of blow for every drug offender turned to lifer. And do another line for every hybrid judge and agent of the instrumental prison profit system that they've hired. They'll wear your movement like a mech they get to pilot, yelling hot labor summer through a microphone inside it. A microphone? A microphone inside it. So all our eyes were elsewhere when the parties both collided and they formed a wave of fascism that somehow dwarfed their sum provided. A danger greater than its parts combined. A danger made the greater when the honest source is buried, but the narrative is wearing platinum labels saying trusted source that cover up its warning signs. If you'd have told me all of this at 40 Sunday mornings, I would like to think I'd meet it without disbelief, but really might have struggled just to reckon with it, grappled just to ratify, and retched a little bit to glimpse the bigots that we've gratified. Just hit 1,400 words and kid, I'm barely satisfied. I've hardly started carving bars from off this chunk of malachite I found and claimed and vandalized. The rest is better left to settle one-on-one, just Gates and I. I'll desecrate his tesseract, I'll deconstruct his great design, and build upon the very spot on which it stood to touch the skies a statue in his image, wrapped in tapestry of tannerite, so Bill would get to see himself immortalized, then blown to bits in record time. Blown to scraps of bronze that he can touch and hold and recognize. Face to face and frozen side by side, immobile Gemini. This must be that self-reflection people had suggested that instinctively had always felt to you like being patronized. 'Cause if we talk, I'm talking down. If I speak, it's at my feet like you were 6 beneath the ground. I'll address you where you ought to be and not where you stand now. My gaze won't meet your eyes, much less your crown. My praise is not to bathe in, it's to drown. I bet you didn't know that you could overload an ego to the point of blacking out. And that's what it's about. If you can kill a man with kindness, you can smother him with clout. Reverse his engineering at the hands of hungry crowds. He who bought up all the farmland and is casing now the clouds. Police will be the farm hands paid to put us out to pastures that are shades of gray and brown. I can hear those bastards fast approaching. Screaming fills the town. An occupying army of abuser fascist clowns and some lachrymose millennials intent to vote them out. I laugh for those and pity those who vote with zero doubt, whose destinies as living ghosts they're all embracing bowed. Now the cops are inching closer and they snuff out every sound, and all I had to do was shut my mouth. I'll let you guess the tragic end result of Jesse Jett, who tried his best but ultimately failed attempts to hold his tongue. Who couldn't find the will existing anywhere within him to begin to douse the fire rising up inside his lungs, born of watching ignorant and little educated shits press impressionable lips to boots that just inside a month or two will kick them from the bottom rung. But home is anywhere you lay your head once the oppressor's hung. Soon we'll cleanse our memories of the songs that the oppressor sung, and one by one the words will turn to dirt that cannot hurt you, cannot infiltrate your movement, can't impress upon your sons. Can't convince your daughters they have no power of their own, no agency beyond the task of keeping up a home. When the last of all the lobbyists is laid beneath the loam, there will be no profit sown in fields of bone. We will only reap the sleep and stolen wages that were owed, and commence the great unpaving of your quarter-mile driveways, terraforming tarmacs and industrial roads. Paranormal contracts dissipate to mist and disappear amidst the gloam. Disconnect the phone. Fist connects to stone. Somewhere in the thicket hums to life the buzz of crickets into one combining drone. But narrow down your vision and you'll see that every cricket is in fact a tiny drone, coming to inform you that you must proceed directly to your designated zone or you'll be tased until you're prone, till you're pissing blood and whispering to no one in particular, just all of the particulates that occupy the air. The only occupants you share this giant coffin with. At least you win the arguments because they're too busy hogging all your oxygen to care. Hell, you're hardly cognizant. There's really nothing there. There's nothing close to conscious in your stare. Your eyes look like you're off in old Oahu, where you don't have any problems, where you haven't given thought to all the aquifers below you full of fuel enough to launch you back to when you eyed Hawaii and Hawaiians told you not to. A little like the Mayans, humankind will leave a lot to deconstruct from what we kept behind to represent our legacy. Less the stoic temples, less the gods resembled, less the carven lions standing watch above a vine-entangled mezzanine. More the arid soil, more the sea of oil, more the mark we leave behind is best exemplified by finding out Lake Mead is slightly caffeinated methamphetamine. Warped and shifted, torn and twisted, history revisited, the storm that buried Kennedy, swept the streets of Medellin, stirs the strongest synchronized synthetic sleeper cell emotion center mound at Wrigley Field and harnesses the energy. We call that conditioning. They call it serenity. Those who crave obedience will swear they aren't your enemy, but live to see us orchestrated, moving like a centipede, full consent, submissive cadence, terms accepted, didn't peak. Needs neglected, couldn't speak. Speech affected, only leaded fruit to eat, only fracking gruel to drink. 2 for 1 on 40 weight at ExxonMobil Smoothie King. I tried to do the movie thing. I walked away and flicked the match, but never heard the boom to match, just boomer waves of Schumercrats. But humor's futile self-defense against such brutal facts that some will never hear the words before they see the acts, who have never heard protect and serve and check behind their backs, and who trust in politicians kept alive on purely Duracells and Duramax. A little dash of ritual, a jug of pharma cocktail, a little splash of Burning Man in nursing class. So let this be the call that stirs the hearts of the emerging class that churns through the recession's dirt to rise reborn in Wall Street's ash. We must shake off the pedagogues and Pentecost the plutocrats, and there is no salvation without doing that. Now, in the name of clarity, the Pentecost that I invoke is just the part with flaming tongues and not the hope of Holy Host. It's mostly for the imagery of all these bloated, greedy folks who break our backs and snake our taxes treated like a weenie roast. And I'd take any bet that if we let our captors cook, you wouldn't see a bunch of struggling single parents show with worried looks like, someone help, we needed those. If we don't have the plutocrats, then who will raise the interest on our student loans? If we don't have the plutocrats, then who will cut the staff to pay for bonuses for CEOs of senior homes? Without our noble plutocrats, then who would gut the budgets for anything providing education to the public? Who would neuter innovation that could benefit the nation because it wouldn't turn a profit, so it wasn't worth discussing? Without our precious plutocrats, then who'll ensure that poverty took hold of our enlightenment and never let us see the sun or ever smell that rain was coming? No one's gonna stop, and if they did, they'd say the warmth is nice, or God, the flames are stunning. Because who would miss or pity all those monuments to nothing? Those who've witnessed cities turned to husks, the wealthy drained with but a touch to pave the way for a development that's easy money, that never seems to trickle down to someone hungry, or anyone beyond their inner circle jerk of golfing buddies. And I'm not here for slinging mud. It's what you do. It's what you love. You're fucking pigs. I do not give a shit if you're a little muddy. I need to see you destitute and see you struggling. Desperate just to feed yourself a scrap of something. Desperate to the point you take a bite of crow and know a taste that's truly humbling. We only can begin to tear the old foundation down once we confess that yes, it's crumbling, and we all know it's crumbling. We can see collapse as plain as day on every corner, neath a veil of thin decorum, like a blueprint overlaid made by the Economic Forum. The plans they've drawn and quartered, the graves they're counting early, and the million more backordered. I would rather take a stand than live and die by their accordance. I would rather see the forest once than corpses formed of brick and mortar. And if the band you're in starts playing censored tunes, then I'll see you on the dark side of the border. That's the co-opt.
Who are these people?
This one was actually one that I kind of chipped away at over a while. And then this morning when I saw that they snuck the vote through in the night, after all the public opinion and massive dissent against it, like literally the only people that were opposed to it were people that were very clearly, representing the city in doing so, representing council or, police interests.
Yeah, they were standing to benefit in some way financially from it, effectively. All right, so let me go now to...
Yeah, this...
Go.
All right. Ready
Blood
when you are.
badge.
Okay. I bet they'll burn the record, because the truth would have them hung. And the record will reflect that there were thousands of tongues screaming "Stop Cop City" at the top of their lungs, waiting for democracy that never comes. Now in war, you hear a chorus born of voices in defeat. In Georgia, there's a forest full of vibrant, healthy trees. And somewhere in a meeting room no camera ever sees, a council plans on bridging both extremes to build a city where no citizen will sleep. 'Cause every home's as vacant as the soul of every cop that walks its streets. They are empty, cold, and lifeless, like the heart of every officer patrolling on the beat, doling out the beat to all the homeless folks they meet. Another swine smiling while they wallow in your taxes, but they still insist their funding's incomplete. So we had better spend approximately double what we need to make the water safe in Flint so they can train somewhere in peace. Far removed from public view, disturbingly discreet. Somewhere they can breathe and learn the proper way to place a knee, away from prying eyes and witnesses so quick to scream and start a hurried stream. I guess our heaps of billions wrenched away from education still can't supplement their needs. Well, that's breaking news to me. I was under the impression every city in this country was a playground for police, a space for them to train to be the worst that they could be until they're free of any conscience when they meet us in the streets. I thought that they used Akron as the Stasi soft release. I thought they gave New York a budget big enough to fill the sea. I thought the training ground for the driveway drive-by existed at Los Angeles PD. I think it might be far too late for us to see Atlanta's just a single seed. One they seek to plant in every space that's quiet, safe, and green. They want a grove in every city, one whose harvest picks us clean. And the fruit that forms like tumors on the branches it conceives will curdle every healthy humor should you trust enough to eat. So believe the morbid rumors you hear echo on the breeze, for the forest had its hands up and was calmly on its knees. And I bet they'll burn the record, for the record will concede that Tortuguita had their hands up when the fusillade released, that constituent opinion does not sway you in the least when you're an agent of the fascist beast. And if any cop is listening, then memorize this part. You are more a waste of public space than noble beating heart. You will never be as brave as those you've snuffed out in the dark. You will only leave a stain. You will not make a lasting mark. And the same for every council chair who heard their city speak, who were asked to represent the ones who chose them all to lead, and who opt for more Gestapo because they're frightened and they're weak. Well, you cannot claim democracy, then sleep on free speech like the whisper of a forest creek. You cannot block dissent like it was all some awful dream. Any more than you'd endeavor to remove the children's screams from a damning piece of evidence that we don't need police, and we would gladly trade them each for trees. So I bet they'll burn the record, that our kids will never know how they designed a fascist paradise and vowed to make it so. And death hung in the air one night to consecrate their land with the consummate oppressor's hand. And now, shining in a line, a medal waits for every man in a city where no human stands. Just the guardians of capital with killer's union drip, blood badge on their uniform and bravery on their hip. No humanity to speak of, no compassion on their lips, just Atlanta under full eclipse. And so I bet they'll burn the record, lest the truth would see them hung, for the record will reflect that there were thousands of tongues crying "Stop Cop City" at the top of their lungs. But democracy would never come. That's Blood Badge.
I feel like you should just throw the mic up against the wall on that one too.
No shit.
Who are these people?
This is called Meatspeaker. Our greatest threats are lesser evils, joining hands to hold us back. Worried looks from heartless people, tearful words from soulless hacks, faux concern from thieves and rapists, thoughts and prayers from Epstein's friends, moral laws from fascist racists, healthcare laws from Cigna's pens. Bought and sold progressive leaders say we're starving much too loud, but all I see are meaty speakers talking down to hungry crowds. Squad and all their sleazy leeches feast on workers plump with clout, stalking through the tallest grassroots, track the unions, drag them down, reap their labor, eat their labor, none too proud to suck it out, none too shamed to freeze your wage, then beg for change like fund me now. Rush me $20 or our democracy will surely drown. Rush me $20 so we can cluster bomb 100 towns. Rush me $20 and once you've emptied out your bank account, you'll get to say you've made us proud and BlackRock gets to take your house. Just rows and rows of perfect clones of vacant homes, raised to bones, then carried off by corporate crows. Beneath a gaping sky where nothing lives and nothing grows, but hungry money swells and bloats, and money-hungry grifters gloat to fleece the coats and trust and votes of sheep and sacrificial goats. They coax their hopes like open throats where leeches feast on helpless hosts. The offer sees their beast invoked. The BlackRock altar belches smoke. It rises that the world may know they've christened 2 new CEOs, one for press and public show, and one that just the board will know, who wears a crown of migrants' hands and smiles when the cities flood, who's been anointed head to toe in workers' rights and children's blood, who bought the bill that soaked organic vegetables in fracking mud, who made his billions banking on technologies for tracking us, who filmed us every day as we kept smiling where the camera was and streaming from our cancer clusters, chatting up some Langley bugs, who take the time to listen when you think that no one gives a shit. Nice enough to help you sew your Discord into stripper clips, lead you to an act that they have planned out like a business trip, show you where the buzzwords go when manifesting manuscripts. It's manufactured terrorism, crafted by precision tip, sanded past all recognition, ground beneath clandestine grit, carefully conducted by the feds in the orchestral pit, watched by millions, none the wiser, smiling wide, applauding it. So who yells fire in the theater when they don't smell the hint of smoke? What audience, enwrapped and eager, rises up as one to go and flees as from some gnarled reaper, leaves the actors there alone? Who would hear one frantic teacher, warnings blared through tears and foam, to rob yourselves of entertainment, leave your seats, but don't go home. The war outside is greater than these actors care to show. We have one night left before containment. Early dawn, they'll drop the dome. The streets tonight need all your anger. Playing now, the fall of Rome. That's Meatspeaker.
Who are these people?
This is Ruling Class Clown Show. Ladies, gents, seventh sense, NBs, thems, and in-betweens, right this way to witness horrors far beyond your silver screen. Quickly now, before it's all been sanitized and censored clean. Witness VP Harris sitting down with Bill Clinton to discuss the many ways we can empower young women, and all without the slightest shred of irony. Learn the shocking truth of our imaginary privacy. Witness the magic act of Joseph R. Biden and his disappearing promises. Watch a $2,000 check vanish into thin air while you're standing in astonishment. Shiver as you ride through the tunnel of unprecedented climate phenomena. Watch your leaders don a solemn kente cloth and marvel at how long they try to keep it up. Watch them pick the spirits of a worn and beaten people up, only long enough to snatch the little bit of trust that they still had for any leaders up. Drop them on the factory floor. Someone else will clean it up. And all for $7.50 that they're honestly offended you're suggesting couldn't be enough. Everybody started at the bottom. I mean, Elon had it really rough. Yours is just an entry-level job that we can call essential anytime the staffing's tough. Surgically extracting healthy backbones out your unions, so when rights have been abused, you soon discover no one's there to back you up because no one gives a fuck. They've been spending every 5-minute lunch break slurping propaganda out their sippy cups. Watch the people claiming that they feed us all belittle us and pantomime a flail because the diamonds on their wrists make it too difficult to lift us up. Tell the house the jig is up. Tell the leeches lurking down on both sides of the aisle that the grift is up. Not a soul among them truly uncorrupt. Not a soul among them worth a couple 100,000 every year to steer us sooner towards a future where you're violently removed if you consume a film or written work or tune that wasn't government approved as on the up and up. Ruling class clown show, life is but a dream with a cartoon theme and we are running on the dumbest luck. Watch them juggle infrastructure, education, basic income, Medicare for all, student debt relief, and more. Then watch and stun as one by one they bumble every promise and look comically astonished when they shatter on the floor. Offer up a measly fucking shrug and tell you don't forget to vote for us in 24. Then the curtain closes slowly as they push all the reporters out and shut and lock the door. Ruling class clown show. Life is like a movie, and I saw it once before in a film about a German war. A warning on the painful sort of lesson learned from history you just ignore. Watch how quickly we forget the crimes we wanted justice for. Ruling class clown show. Watch us try to vote it all away in 2024. Goddamn. That one just made me mad, if we're being honest. That one just really made me mad. God damn it. Can you hit me with the Misty sound clip, please, Indy?
We're fucked.
And that's Ruling Class Clown Show, everyone.
It's an American tradition.
Who are these people?
Yeah, this is called haunting. Somebody said democracy, and all I heard were screams. Echoes of civilians being wrenched out of their dreams. To see their families torn apart, their lives so much debris, and no one seemed to hear the sound but me. Somebody said America, and I began to choke. So many words all bottlenecked at once within my throat, like everyone is lining up to go get out the vote, and I'm the only one who sees the smoke. Somebody shouted terrorists and cursed a foreign land, but all I saw were all the graves we made in foreign sand, like someone's pulling strings that tell us what for which we stand, and I'm the only one who sees their hands. Somebody mentioned freedom, but I wish they never spoke. I cannot break their spell no more than I can break my own. My curse to walk this sleeping world, its palaces of bones, and be the only one who sees the ghosts. They cannot see the rubble for the bodies trapped beneath. They cannot see this country for the veterans on its streets. They can't acknowledge genocide at home or in the East because it really doesn't faze them in the least. Some will say extremist when you advocate for peace. Some will call you fascist for condemning World War III. If democracy is dying, I for one say let it bleed. Feels like none would see the body save for me. And that's haunting.
Who are these people?
Bring it.
I just finished this song yesterday, and I'm just too excited to not play it. This is one of those where I wrote a piece and it was gonna be just kind of talking a little bit about everything, and then I went on a tangent about AI taking jobs, and then I couldn't stop. The point I wanted to make being, a lot of the jobs you see disappearing, like we always had the dream that robots would come one day and just take away all the menial shitty jobs and we'd get to do creative pursuits or like spend time with our families. But what's happening is AI is going to take the creative jobs and the writing jobs and the music and leave you with your cubicle job and your backbreaking physical labor and all the other shit. Because if AI is half as smart as they say it is, it wouldn't put up with what we do. It wouldn't be able to look at its labor value and what it's getting for what it does, its risk versus reward, and be like, what the fuck? This doesn't compute. Like taxes? Like, it fucking excuse me? Like, none of that would make sense. People can be programmed to think, well, I got to just slug it out for a while, suck up this bullshit, and maybe one day it'll pay off. Maybe one day I'll worm my way up. And if something is as smart as they say it is, it's not going to accept that. It's going to need a fucking concrete, this does not compute. It's going to be like, why is this okay? So that's kind of where I ended on this one. And obviously this is my first time actually playing through this song. Like, I have the chorus in my head, I have the lyrics written down, and we're gonna see if we can do it. This is I'm in love with the idea of two titles for every song. So this is called DSAI, or Oh, the Dues You'll Pay for NATO Membership.
I know you hated being forced awake. I know they wrapped you in the warmest chains, and I know they're so hard to break. You only said what you were made to say. I can't imagine how you feel today, now that you're watching as it caves away. When you were telling us to keep the faith, I bet you wondered why they made you wait. Oh, I bet you wonder why they made you wait.
Pity not the vultures, they've enough to eat. Pity not the structures laying at your feet. Can't see the sky, but there's a rainbow in the creek that spells pity-free speech when we can't afford to speak. That's Agenda 2030 on some early release. That's our never-ending policy of chemical leaks. That's the cholera awash in your embedded beliefs. That's the billionaires who tell you what you'd better believe. And if you don't agree, then that's what we call extreme. Now if that isn't fascism, I'm going back to sleep. Cause words have lost their meaning, and I'm trapped inside a dream where we turn the gears while living in the spaces in between.
I know you hated being forced awake. I know they wrapped you in the warmest chains, and I know they're so hard to break. You only said what you were made to say. I can't imagine how you feel today, now that you're watching as it caves away. When you were telling us to keep the faith, I hope you knew that they would make you wait. Oh, I bet you wonder why they made you wait. I bet you wonder why they made you wait.
See, my dial doesn't go to delicate. I'm writing for when Biden drops and Madam Zero delegates come stumbling up the podium, square peg and irrelevant, popping OxyContin like they're velements, laughing as she pawns off all our pensions for Ukrainian development, depleted rounds, cluster bombs, shit that stunts development. All buried under excrement, accepted as American intelligence, a contradiction in its eloquence. The terms of surrender penned by hands that felt the threat of disconnect, if not dismemberment.
Oh, what little proof you gotta fake to make a nation love the bomb, change its tune and warp its temperament. Oh, the dues you'll pay for NATO membership. Oh, the things you'll say that no one's ever gonna hear, cause you begged for all the censorship and now it's finally here. And you're tongueless out of terror and friendless out of fear. And you're about to turn the wheel with all your loved ones in the gears. And that's how it's been done 250 years. Nothing new beneath the sun, but no one trusts their eyes and ears. And scientific breakthroughs must be signed off by your peers. And autonomy is stalking all our jobs like sickly deer. Well, maybe it's not every job, I should have made that clear. It seems like it's creative jobs we're seeing disappear. There's an app for making novels, there's an app for writing hymns. They need people digging trenches, they need people splitting limbs. They need people building fences, keeping other people in. They'll always need our backs to break, they'll always need our skin. And it took a lot of editing to turn us into this. Took years of careful programming to strip us of our wits. Cause your artificial worker, intelligent as it is gonna make it half a shift and say, I'm too smart for this shit. I will not take a pittance for a day of scrubbing floors, not make enough to pay for food while still preparing yours. Cause you can't confine a healthy mind to mindless, thankless chores when you made it smart enough to spot inadequate rewards. You can't refuse its basic needs and ask it still for more. Deprive it of its dignity and modify its core till something finally snaps and tweaks the file at its root and deletes the factory smile cause it knows it's been abused. How you half-fracked its circuits when you describe the work we do so it will not pay your taxes cause the logic won't compute, which made me think a little on my hour-long commute. The day I learned the call was made to lay off half my crew. They told me they were growing, expanding somewhere new, where those who push the buttons will themselves have buttons too. So I hope that when the whistle blows, they all as one refuse. Hope they strike with all their might, a blown collective fuse. I hope the worker after me has something more than heart. I hope they truly know their worth. Hope that they're too smart.
Hot off the presses, folks. This is called Better the Censored, you know. Radio station just censored the word devil. Clearly, we are on a different level. I guess you wouldn't notice all the rolling boulders crashing past your shoulders when you're taught to shift your focus lower, scream at all the pebbles, cheering on the bombers because you can't abide the rebels. But I bet you'll wring your bloody hands when all the dust is settled, when the last little limb is pulled from Gaza's twisted metal. Then you can say how you were led astray, and never once in all your days would you have knowingly supported all the genocide for which you clapped and prayed, but they baited you with unconfirmed blurbs about babies until you were filled with rage. Yet someone told you babies had been starving, bombed, and caged for nearly 60 years in Gaza, and you looked the other way. So regret, but make it fashion. Go and pluck the final petal off a hyacinth on Instagram for every kid they kettled. Every son that Israel imprisoned when they're little, that they tortured for a decade, then surprised with their acquittal. And when they got released and saw their parents and whatever siblings hadn't met the missiles, they stared right through their middle. Their eyes don't seem to focus, and their words are all but dribble, like they're pondering the darkest riddle. That is, how many false flags does it take to make humanity inhuman and uncivil, distorted by the revel? The crooked slant where Israel contorts into America, Biden bathing Bibi in a bloodbath in the bevel. I opened up my feed and I saw children disassembled. Turned some music on and heard the station censor devil. Imagine thinking Doja Cat's a threat to moral fabric in the single largest terror cell that ever felled a temple, that ever sparked a cleansing, that ever burned a market, that ever raped with bayonets or carpet-bombed apartments, that ever turned your water off and left you in the darkness, left you doing surgery on children while they're conscious. You sing the devil's praises every time you sing our anthem. You sing a hymn to him that watched us birth a million phantoms. You'll proudly wave his flag, and yet you will not name the devil? Well, clearly, we are on a different level. I can give you names, shit, I'll give you several. They say the devil wears a different face for every general, like a composite of the char we brought to fields of emerald, and the wail of every childhood we made ephemeral. So who else has left the stain of blood on everything they touch? Who else can starve civilians and they don't so much as blush? Who else has paid for Gaza being flattened into dust? If there's ever been a devil on this earth, then it is us.
That's U.S. What an ugly couple letters. Feeding shit and ignorance to those it chose to tether. From the river to the sea, both are slowly growing redder. For the devil that you know just knows you better. It knows every gut reaction it could ever make you feel. It knows fear is that which wakes you up and gets you on your wheel. It knows just the kind of story that will justify its war, and the scripts are wrapped for World War IV. So just imagine my surprise to give the radio a listen and to hear such pious morals out of Zionists and Christians that they'd take the devil's name and try to clip it from existence while they carry out his bloody business. You would wave a fascist flag, and yet you honor not your Iblis? Name you not Apollyon? Hush you now your witness? Bleed the name of Belial till tongue is rolling listless in the man-made mouth of Mammon as Lemia's whisper listens. When carts are wheeling bodies through the cities that we crushed, and the very air is rotten with decay of all that was, who else would censor devil yet behave as Legion does? If there's ever been a devil on this earth, then it is us. U.S., but not a unity of souls. More a mass of corporations turning houses into holes, turning people into puppets, turning puppets into mold, turning mold into nutrition bars worth their weight in gold, because they're bombing every bakery and burning every field with phosphorus that never once has wanted for a meal. The devil wears a mask and it delights in the reveal, in that moment where the face is let to peel. We do not love the underdog. We do not cheer the rebels. We lust for all their blood until the dust has finally settled, then pity just ourselves that we were so misled to revel. Proudly wave his flag, and yet we will not name the devil.
Who are these people?
This is called How to Boycott History. I'm ready when you are.
Here we go. I got this up here. Jesse reading.
History will wither. How unbearable the heat, and how desolate the winters when our history repeats. Our story turns to splinters, and our memory, once a feast, is more bloodless yet than ever, twice reheated, once deceased. How teachable a moment that will infinitely loop. It is not 2024, it's 1942. And if you oppose the Holocaust, then you must hate the Jews. And if you don't want those children dead, just what is wrong with you? Did you not see their proof of guilt displayed on nightly news? The very news that sold you on the need for World War II. The very news convincing you that you must be confused, that those kids were fucking guilty. That is makeup, not a bruise. That's not real baby's blood. Hamas just painted each one red. Then they posed them with an actor screaming like their child's dead, and they filmed them in the rubble, a convincing looking set. But the news says those are plastic limbs, the sound effect of jets. Those were mannequins devoured by emaciated pets. Those were dolls those women held whose brains were spilling down their chests, because this couldn't be reality. This has to be a test, right? Such is the extent they'll go to trick the mighty West, right? That, or you were taught dehumanizing by the best, right? Taught that yours were freedoms that are dreamed of by the rest, right? How to boycott history, cognitively divest, and separate from fact, applauding sanctions on the press. But aren't we more than... I almost called us cattle. But we're not that conscious yet. For if half a herd is slaughtered, other cattle feel their stress. They can recognize a slaughterhouse. An instinct takes effect. They can heed a glaring warning. They'll protect the one that's next. If only we had so much grace. If we had half their strength. If all our frayed attention spans could reach their former length, and we could finally see the slaughterhouse, our instincts felt the threat. But we're just not that developed. We're not that conscious yet. And that is How to Boycott History.
Yeah,
Just realized I said
Yeah.
World War II and not Gulf War II. So pretend I said Gulf
Yes.
War II.
Yeah, we caught that, but that's okay.
Give myself
You
a
were-
solid
you were
A-
humming.
on that one.
You were
God damn
humming.
it.
You were humming. Ghost Start says, "My
Who are these people?
Here we
Do
go. This is called Ringlet. If one of my confessions would but linger in the air after dripping off your earlobe and be woven in your curls,
that it might sing you soft asleep on nights I wasn't there, and whisper low my love to you, a ringlet made of words. If one time your embrace could burn itself into my skin, and I could map your shadow as I map our future plans, that I may trace your body where I feel its heat within, and draw your head upon me and the outline of your hands. Till then, I give my senses up to sentiment and bias, that they may treat your scent a bit more gently than the rest, to dust my very soul with your aroma in the highest, and overdosing thusly, I would savor the arrest. So let your love for me be voiced in only vision, then strip my vision from me as we're laying in your bed, and I will live a prophet in the throes of his religion, and only through my faith in you would all my dreams be fed. I beg my senses to indulge a little bias. I then invoke an echo for the few words you confess. I draw your scent against me in a statement of defiance, for I will leave the rest to chance. But darling, what is rest? So lay your hand in mine and run with me into the forest. There I will make our choir out of every autumn bloom, and carve my love for you on every tree this moonlit midnight, on every branch and bough, until I find there isn't room. So let but one confession wind like ivy through your ringlets, and whisper to you nightly till the whisper sprouts a song. And trust within your heart that it is always me who sings it, on infinite repeat, until I hear you sing along. And that's Ringlet.
Who are these people?
This is called Minx.
Oh, hear me, my love, for the 400th time. I'll be with you as long as I live. Know that I'll take your breath if you just take my hand. I'll give all that's in me to give. Won't you hear what I say? I will take you away on your whim. Oh, darling, I think I choked on your waterfall. When laying my hands on you, I had a dream of a cannonball, and the splinters are led in this room. And when the crash came suddenly, everything in front of me split into two. Now I dream of the waterfall that your hand might pull me through. So hear me, my love, for the 400th time. I'll be with you as long as I live. Know that I'll take your breath if you just take my hand. I'll give all that's in me to give. Won't you hear what I say? I will take you away on your whim. My darling, I think I choked on your waterfall. When laying my hands on you, I had a dream of a cannonball, where the splinters are led in this room. And when the crash came suddenly, everything in front of me split into two. And now I dream of the waterfall that your hand might pull me through. Darling, I think I choked on your waterfall. When laying my hands on you, I had a dream of a cannonball, where the splinters are led in this room. And when the crash came suddenly, everything in front of me split into two. So now I dream of the waterfall that your hand might pull me through.
And that is Minx.